Welcome to Total Drawing's Realistic Portrait Drawing series. Be sure to watch part 1 of this series about drawing a grid on your photo and your drawing paper. To create a realistic pencil portrait, let's start by drawing the edges of our subject according to the grid. I'll start with the hat in the third block of the top row. As you are drawing, notice whether contours cross over the grid lines near the center of a grid block's edge or closer to a corner. That will help you place your lines more accurately. I like to work on the whole shape first to separate the subject from the background and then get into the smaller parts like the facial features. As you draw through a block, notice how close your drawn line should be to the edges of your grid blocks. Keep comparing your drawing with the reference. As long as we're generally making the right mark in about the right place in each block that corresponds with the blocks in our photograph, then all of our blocks will eventually come together to create a picture just like the pieces of a puzzle. If, when you get to about this stage of the drawing, once the outline is in place, if the proportions of your figure look pretty different from the ones in your photograph, then you may have made a mistake. You may have drawn one row too high or low for part of your blocks, or one column too far to the right or left. So it's always a good idea, if something looks a little bit funny in your drawing, to double check and recount your blocks to make sure that you're working in the right rows and columns. Let's take a look at the eye. The eye is almost entirely inside of a single grid block, but the grid can still help us place the eye accurately. See how the eye is only in the bottom half of its grid block in the reference? It also extends across the entire width of that block. Those are both helpful pieces of information to know. We still really have to concentrate on drawing the lines in our drawing, the right angles, and make the right shapes out of those lines. But we're still making the drawing. Using the grid isn't a way of cheating, it's just a way of taking a difficult subject and breaking it into smaller bite sizes that we can more easily digest. Alright, it's starting to look like a person now. I can't wait to get into the pattern of that hat. Besides the hard edges of our subject, it is a good idea to lightly sketch in the edges of any distinct shadows during this stage of our drawing. It's worth pointing out that this figure is turned at a 3/4 view, so we can see most of one side of the face and only a little bit of the other side of the face, and the shadow runs down the corner of the face where the front of the face meets the side. The hat has a tedious pattern on it. Drawing each ridge on the hat would be difficult without a grid and still requires careful observation and patience, even with the aid of a grid. Can you count the blocks in the photograph and count the blocks in the drawing and find which ridge on the hat that I'm working on right now? Just a few more ridges on the hat and it'll be complete. Drawing texture and pattern can be more tedious and challenging sometimes than drawing the features of a face. I'm going to grab a few more shadows in the neck. I'm just drawing around the darkest parts down there. Let's take a closer look. I want to draw around the shadows in and around the mouth as well. There are several small shapes of shadow and light in this area. These contour lines around light and shadow might make the portrait look less like the person at the moment, but it will help me shade it in more accurately in the next step. Now that the contour drawing is complete, we can begin shading, erasing the grid as we go. Be sure to watch the next video in this series where we'll add value to create form.